Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Northern Ireland regional event. Sorry about the delay in getting started. We're just all trying to get connected up here this evening. Again, it's our next event. We had a previous one here probably a year ago. We've got different guests on tonight, so I hope you enjoy the content for this evening. I'm going to run through the agenda quickly, and then we'll kick off with some of our speakers tonight. So who do we have tonight? First of all, we're going to have a video from Callum, the CEO in in the Nfsp. He can't join us live as he's got a lot of events on around the whole of the UK, so he's going to do, he's done a little video for us tonight. Then we've got Sue Edgar, who's the chair of the Nfsp this year, and she will be joining us on Zoom live. We then have the guys in the studio here joining me that you will hear from. We've got Simon Hutchison, security manager for Northern Ireland. We've got Stephen, who is the cash operations manager, and Sean as well, who's the CV IT shift manager here in Northern Ireland. So you may be joining us from Northern Ireland, you may be joining us from England. You're welcome, no matter where you're from in the UK, and hopefully you will pick up some useful tips tonight. During this evening's event, if you do want to text in questions to us, the number will flash up on the screen for you. Make a note of it because it will be coming back and forward during the evening. So as I text in questions, we've got somebody in here processing them. We'll try and get all the questions answered tonight. If we don't get all the questions answered tonight, we'll certainly get answers for you and fire that back after. So get us started off. As I say, Callum's recorded a video for us this evening, so we're going to go ahead and hear from Callum.
Hi, I'm Callum Greenhow and I'm the Chief Executive of the Nfsp. Naturally, branch and regional secretaries from around the network are very kindly asking me to attend their meetings. But sadly, I can't be in multiple places at any one time. So we thought it might be helpful to do a short video explaining something that the Nfsp has been working on. As we come out of the pandemic, the importance of meeting up with colleagues for the first time in over 18 months is understandable. Like you, I was a postmaster for 23 years, with my wife now the postmistress of our post office in the Scottish borders. On that basis, I know full well the challenges that you face as postmasters. Indeed, the Nfsp is made up of volunteering postmasters around the country, and it's this group of people that I want to quickly talk about at this point. The amount of support the Nfsp branch and regional secretaries provide to the Nfsp members should not be underestimated. They truly deserve a round of applause because despite having their own businesses to run and families to care for, they devote so much time to helping their colleagues when something goes wrong. I'll give you a brief history of my involvement with the Nfsp. I first became president of the South of Scotland branch of the Nfsp back in 2010, before being asked to be its branch secretary in 2012. Then in 2016, the Scotland region asked me to be its regional director, before I was asked to be the chief executive from June of 2018. I never thought that by taking on the role of branch president all those years ago, that I was on a journey that would lead to being the chief executive of this wonderful organisation, and it's a privilege to work with you and on your behalf in this capacity. As I have discharged these various responsibilities, I know how important a job the Nfsp branch and regional secretaries, along with other regional officials, do on behalf of the Nfsp members. If you want to become more involved in supporting other postmasters and in shaping the future of the network, then I encourage you to speak to your regional secretary about becoming an Nfsp regional official. As a business owner like you, I want to see your business thrive. I say that knowing that the competition is growing stronger and customer expectations are becoming more demanding. So having a support network like the Nfsp is vitally important to the future viability of your business, your whole business. The branch and regional secretaries are integral to how the Nfsp will support you in the years ahead. I really want to involve you more in the decision making that impacts your whole business. MDA2 is a perfect example of how the Nfsp will engage you far more in decisions that affect your post office. The engagement we sought with you since March this year was integral to the narrative we brought to post office and government on your behalf. This is how we are able to bring about the support package that will be in place till March 23, and the permanent increase in special delivery and parcel force rates. NFSP member engagement with branch and regional secretaries is vital to this process. They are your democratic representative on a local level. They in turn, working with their NFSP regional director, bring your voice to the negotiating table with Post Office and government. With that in mind, we have updated the NFSP branch and regional secretaries guide to ensure that the support you receive via your local representative is clearer and easier to access. This guide will be sent out to NFSP branch and regional secretaries early next year, plus training will be provided in the new year on the updated Post Office policies, covering overnight cash holdings, opening hours and discrepancies, etc., so that the NFSP representatives have all the tools they need to provide you with the support you require. Further, we have set up our own dedicated Facebook group and operate WhatsApp groups across the country, so that colleagues can communicate easier with each other. This is a great way to interact with your local NFSP representative and for them to understand the wider issues that are impacting members at local level. Further, our website is being updated so that contact details of branch and regional secretaries is easier to find. I want every NFSP member to know that they are not on their own and they should not worry in silence. If you have a problem, your local NFSP network and local NFSP representative is there for you. I want to encourage the regional officials to meet on a regular basis to discuss the issues affecting NFSP members. This is a key way for issues to be escalated through the NFSP's channels to the management team and the board. This will also enable the NFSP to raise your concerns with Post Office and government when required. This is part of the NFSP's core purpose. As a collective of postmasters, we negotiate with Post Office in relation to remuneration for the network. We challenge the Post Office to improve its ways of working with postmasters, and we represent members if they are in dispute with the Post Office. Effective engagement at grassroots level between the NFSP members and branch and regional officials supports and enables our core purpose. Next, just a short message on Conference of 2022. It will be held from Sunday the 8th to Tuesday the 10th of May in Stratford-upon-Avon, with a branch and regional secretaries conference on Saturday the 7th. On the Sunday there will be an exhibition of retailers affiliated to the NFSP, plus potentially a sneak preview of the next Horizon kit. We are in the process of arranging speakers and these will be announced once confirmed. Plus, there will be plenty of opportunity for you to meet with senior members of Post Office and ask them questions on the future of the business. Now, space is limited to 130 delegates, so let your regional secretary know as soon as possible if you would like to come. This is your opportunity to influence the direction of your NFSP. I want to thank you for all the work you do within your communities, and I know how important community efforts are to you as postmasters. I was a local firefighter for 17 years. I have organised a local firework display for 26 years. I'm responsible for the village Christmas lights, and I was a church elder and a member of the school board, to name but a few of the community roles I have held over the years. But am I unique? Of course not, as you all do similar things within your own community. This is why some colleagues have been awarded with a Queen's Honour or a Community Champion Award. I want some postmasters to get more recognition for what they do. So that is why I'm asking each NFSP region to nominate a member who over the years has provided outstanding service to either their local community or their community of postmasters. We will then put them forward via the UK honour system, so hopefully they can receive the recognition they deserve. I just want to encourage you to enjoy your evening, and hopefully we can meet up soon. Take care.
Okay, thanks for that, Colm. And unfortunately, he couldn't make it here this evening. Okay, we're going to swiftly move on to Sue, who's the chair of the NFSP. So Sue will join me on the big screen here now, live in Belfast. So there we go. Hello, Sue. Nice to meet you. Welcome to our Northern Ireland event. This is your first Northern Ireland event as chair of the NFSP, so welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite. Just a slight time delay. It's brilliant. I've never ever been to Northern Ireland anyway, so I will look forward to coming in person soon, I hope.
Yeah, no, hopefully we'll get you across very soon to see us in person. It'll be a lot nicer in person in this virtual world that we're currently in.
Yeah, I've asked for some airbrushing. It hasn't happened, but this is me, how I am.
That's the way we like it, Sue. That's the way we like it.
Yeah.
So I just wondered, I say, since you're new to for our NFSP meetings here in Northern Ireland, if you could sort of introduce yourself, introduce your role within NFSP, and maybe just tell us about some of the work that you've been doing for the next few minutes within the NFSP this year.
Yeah, no problem. Well, my name's Sue Edgar, as you all know. I've worked within Post Office in different roles for nearly 38 years. I started off doing 6 hours as a counter clerk, moved on to full-time, and then I left after just over 12 years and became a relief, doing for holiday cover, sickness cover, and then I started working for Post Office Limited, doing some relief work with problems with postmasters, illness, etc. And then I bought my post office, got out into network, reinvention, change, one of those, and got Gisborough Post Office, where I am currently in North Yorkshire, right at the foot of the North Yorkshire Moors, and it's beautiful. Friendly market town, and I live about 9 miles away, so it's a good commute. Country roads, as you all know, in Northern Ireland, what they're like. And my role, I took over from Tim Boothman, who's had a really difficult time as such because we got hit with COVID. And I sort of started at the beginning of June, so we were coming out of COVID, but we seem to be going back that way now. But it is a challenging time and has been for all of us. And I think to me, the hardest part is getting our customers back. They're coming back in dribs and drabs, but I also think a lot have got used to being local. And I think that the COVID effect has hit, sorry, but I talk with my hands, has hit all of us, especially the ones in the inner cities, and like me, who is an urban on a high street, and big currency office. It's starting to come back, but nothing like it was, and I've spent years building it up, but hopefully it will come. It will come and they will be served. But the post office help, and we do negotiate with them, and we fight your battles, and believe me, we fight battles. But as an NFSP, as a federation, what I would like to say, we do lots of things and we have lots of partners, one of them being HR for You. And Angela Clay is absolutely brilliant. I don't know how many of you use her for your contracts, etc. But as a member for free, she helped a certain member of mine that I know, and she sent out every bit via email to print off on staff problems, we know the process, so that there was no comeback. And they do so much to help. There's a business helpline, there's a retail helpline. With the safe scan machines, we've been having problems. Robert sorted those out. And as Callum has said, we've got conference next year. But the biggest thing I want to talk about, to be honest, is the mental health issue and how we help with that. I had a member, about 2 weeks it's gone on for now so far, who was at the end of their tether, just couldn't cope, and they tried to commit suicide. And it was so sad. Well, it still is sad that they got to that stage. But we've helped, and we've got her in touch with people, and we've given her help from different places and everything else. And she's thanking us. And what really made me feel privileged, that the NFSP were the first people she rang and spoke to outside of her family. And that is an honour to me, to be the one that she would call. And I thanked her for that. But the support we can help with people with mental health problems is second to none, because we've got all the contacts. And Wendy Burke from Northern Ireland is our main one for mental health. And she does so much. I would really like to say a massive thank you to her, because it's not just like a half hour here or a half hour there. It's hours on end she spends with different things and talking to people on the telephone. And Christine Donnelly's support. So we've all done this little course, but nothing like Wendy. She's absolutely marvellous. You're very lucky to have her in your area. The MDA2 has been I would say, a biggest threat after COVID, as in what are we getting paid, and when Post Office weren't going to do anything for special deliveries and parcel force, etc. And the engagement team, which was the old negotiating committee, we've got to a place with the Post Office. We're still fighting for little bits here and other things that I can't really talk about just yet. But we've managed to get them into a place where they're going to do the transition payment till 2023 for people. So, because we can't agree to them that any postmaster will lose going from MDA 1 to MDA 2. And that was a massive challenge. And they are now making payments for parcel force and special deliveries. But the fact that the transition payments are continuing until 2023 has been a big battle, to be honest. And we've got there, because we can't allow any postmaster to lose, because that's just not fair. And it's not, I can't do that. And they say I'm one of the ones that would gain. Well, I'd sooner stay as I am if it meant another postmaster didn't lose out. And there are so many postmasters that are like that. And it's the Federation itself, to me, and it always has been since I started as an associate when I was doing relief work, it's been, I know it sounds dead corny, but it has been another family. And it's a family that we can talk to, you can tell things to, and you know that it's all in confidence. And anything we can do to help one way or another, we all chip in. And each NED, non-executive director within the Federation, Callum has given us all a role to play. And that's new, because that never happened before. But each NED has a role. Mine is supply chain and cash management. Tim's is mails. We've got people in banking. You know, we've got people who do everything. Barrett's security. And that not only eases the burden on Callum, but it also leaves him free to talk to MPs and different people. And we've been working with the Mcelveen on this new case and giving evidence. Well, Callum is going to give evidence. We've all given written evidence to him. And it's all for postmasters. And the Fed is here. We will help in any way we can. And I just want you to know that we are always here, 24 hours a day. Anybody can call me. And to be chair, again, I didn't ever expect starting 6 hours in the post office where I live in Stokesley, a little country town, that I would ever become this high level. It's amazing, and it's a massive, massive honour. And I thank you all for voting for me. And I never, ever thought I would get this role. But I must tell you, I'm loving every minute of it. And when I can get to see you in person, that will be fantastic, because there's nothing like face-to-face. But at the same time, the one good thing to come out of COVID, we've had a lot more meetings and a lot more interaction with members, because we've all learned, because I am not tech savvy at all, but I've learned to use the Zoom and the Teams meetings. And I think we've had more people at meetings this way. And I think, yes, we want face-to-face, but we also need to do these interactive meetings, because we get to talk to so many people and answer so many questions. And we will be taking questions later on. It's amazing, really. That's the only good thing that's come out of COVID. But we are here to help always. And please never worry about coming to us or anything, because everything is confidential. And please note that we are here and we are fighting the postmaster's corner. And I know a lot gets said that we don't, and we say yes to post office when they say anything, but trust me, it's nothing like that. I wondered before I came, were we just, or were they, as in the previous executive officers then, they'll just go in with post office and just say, all right, you're going to give us 10 pence, yeah. All right then, we'll take 9, things like that. That's how I felt as just a normal member. When I first came onto the board, I always remember I was amazed, truly amazed, because they were like little Yorkie Terriers. They were at them like, yap. And I first, I promised, because if you know me, you know what I'm like. I thought I'll just sit and listen and see what happens at the first board meeting I've ever attended. Well, I couldn't, because I just thought I have to say things, and well, that's just me really. But yeah, believe me, nobody ever agrees with the post office first time, and they are a bit shocked, I think, that we don't agree with them because they think they're giving us a good offer. But offers can always be improved, and that's what we fight for as a federation. We fight to increase those offers, and we do. We do. The ATM offer's been increased. Every new product we've looked at, we've got increases or better deals one way or another. And our partners now are really good on the retail side. The books, I've sold loads of those books for £2 for £5 and things. I don't know if any of you have had them, the discount books, but really good and a good seller for your retail side. Business insurance, I'm going on too long, aren't I, Peter?
You're all right. I'm sure you're finishing up soon. It's fine.
But we're here as well with the male segregation tape. We want to hit those targets, and we're nearly there. And it's going to make a big difference in our pay packets, which is where we want it to be. So please feel free to call me anytime or email me, and I will be staying around and taking questions later. But most of all, thank you, Peter, and thank you, Northern Ireland, for inviting me to take part. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue. That's great, and a couple of good points in there, especially around, COVID has been challenging for everybody. And yeah, mental health, and it's important that, the Fed is there to support people. And yeah, there may be a lot of desk jockeys and people that do criticise, but I suppose my best challenge back to them is get involved. If you want to shape the Fed, get involved.
Yeah.
And we're always willing to take on new volunteers, as I put it, because everybody volunteers their time within the Federation, and we're looking postmasters all the time to shape the Nfsp, put across that argument. So you are all more than welcome to get involved. So Sue, we'll come back to you at the end if there's any questions for you. Thank you very much for that.
No problem.
And we'll move on to our next section. So next section for the guys in the studio here, we're going to pick their brains, all things cash, security, and pieces like that. So hopefully you pick up a few tips along the way. I'm going to get them to introduce themselves first, so I'll come across to Stephen.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Stephen Mcelveen. I'm the Cash Operations Manager for Scotland and Northern Ireland, primarily responsible for Belfast Cash Centre and Glasgow Cash Centre. I've been in the post office 41 years, and the post office has been very good to me. For the first 20 of those years, I worked in the counter in Belfast Crown Office, which is in Royal Avenue. Moved then to Castle Place, and then my career took me in a different direction. I'm now working with cash. I have some CVIT experience. I also manage Belfast CVIT operation alongside Manchester CVIT and Chester CVIT. And I'm looking forward to some debate this evening and answering as many questions as I can.
Cheers, team. Simon?
Hi, Simon Hutchinson. I'm the Regional Head of Security for Northern Ireland for the Post Office. In place 8-9 years approximately. Spent all of my adult life in the security field. So again, thanks to Peter for inviting me to here tonight. And I know there's going to be a lot of interesting questions around security, especially around equipment and technology. So I'm looking forward to that this evening.
Okay, thanks, Simon. And finish off with you, Sean.
Good evening. My name's Sean Small. I'm a shift manager in charge of cash and valuables in transit. I've been in the post office 33 years now. I started off in the old, what we call counters, processing cash and making up stock for the offices. I joined CVIT in 21 years ago, and I haven't looked back, but I became a manager in CVIT 16 years ago. So that's basically what I do.
Cheers for that, Sean. So plenty of experience in the room tonight. The guys will keep flashing the text number on there. Anything to do with cash or security, text in your questions for the guys tonight. We are going to talk. Very interesting this week. Anybody that maybe seen the TV was seen inside the cash centre, and it was, I can't even remember his name now.
Dom.
Yeah.
Dom was in the cash centre over in England showing about how cash moves around, which I actually found it very interesting. So Go start off, Simon. First of all,
Yes.
you know, we've got a lot of extra cash coming in now with COVID lifting. Banks in Northern Ireland are closing heavily. So maybe talk us through some of the things that you're doing within security around, you know, technology or pieces of devices or anything to help postmasters.
Absolutely, Peter. And it's an enormous amount of cash. It's unheard of with the cash, the cash flow. Pardon me, is coming through the post office. So we're always looking at new technology. We're always looking at new equipment, and where there's a small local who has perhaps a bitty safe, and I'm giving an example, perhaps of a lunchtime where their limit in the till is up to its max, and all of a sudden you have a queue of customers coming in, and somebody then comes in with a large cash deposit of a few £1,000s. So we're looking at this bit of kit here. Now this is very much in the research and development. It's basically a very small drop safe. So what we would do is we would attach this somewhere under a counter out of sight. It's a very simple mechanism with a wee door. It's locked, the key's put away into the main safe, and then there's a slot at the top for the cash. So basically we're looking at attaching it to the side somewhere, out of sight from the customers, and within easy reach from the teller, and you just put the cash into here. Now, again, very much in the development stage. We're looking maybe about £5,000. Could be a bit more, could be a bit less when we look at this in future. But what I'm looking for tonight, especially, is a bit of feedback from yourselves, from your members, Peter, to see, do you think this is a goer, essentially? I know we're only talking about over a few minutes, but it's an extra piece of kit for you to put your cash into, to not be concerned about, you know, a queue of customers, the till limits over its max by a few £1,000s, and then you having to think about taking the cash out to the back safe or something. This is a stopgap for that. So plenty of feedback, please, on this, whether it's good or bad. And if you're watching this and it's been recorded, you know, there's no time limit on that. We're putting a business case forward to look for funding, so it won't cost you anything. All you have to do is put a nice case towards myself for physical security. I'll come down, have a visit, and see if it's worthwhile. So that's something that we're looking at in the short term. Essentially, we're working partnership with Sean and Stephen here all the time in terms of trying to get our cash off site. It's essential that overnight cash is put into your main safe, the one that's time locked. If you're expecting a REM the next morning, you know, we need to make sure that you have it perhaps out of the coffer and into the main safe, but it has to be in the time safe. The working cash then, of course, from opening time until that main safe opens, then could be in the smaller safe. But make sure the highest denomination notes are in the coffer, unless there's a REM the next day, and then the smaller notes outside of that. So it's essential that we make sure that the cash is secured overnight, especially these times when it's just a colossal amount of cash, Peter.
Okay, thanks for that, Simon.
Can I come in, Peter?
Yeah,
Just to add some context to the amount of cash coming back. In week one, Belfast Cash Centre processed 6.6 million. Recently, it was 15.5 million, 135% increase in cash coming into us, obviously through the banking framework. So it is a huge amount of cash to get out of the branches and into the cash centre and get it processed.
That's a huge increase, and obviously with the banks closing as well,
Yeah.
we would expect those numbers to increase. You know,
Absolutely.
is there anything in place with Post Office? Are you looking at that ahead, sort of projecting that, and how if a postmaster's out there worried tonight about a bank closing next to them, is there any reassurance that Post Office is looking at that, or how can they get help?
I think if the help they're looking is to get cash off out of their safes and away and reducing the risk and getting to the cash centre, then I think it's an obvious call to the cash management team. Say this bank is closed down and our cash deposit have increased significantly. We have access to a portal where we can analyse the Bank of Ireland cash that's accepted in Post Office counters. January and February's average compared to October's average increased by 353%. Indicative of the Bank of Ireland branches closing by 60%. That's replicated against all Northern Ireland banks. But if a postmaster is worried that a bank's closed locally and he's getting more and more cash in, which is great for him, but again, speak to the cash management team. If he's getting one collection a week and he wants to increase that, then reach out to the inventory team, cash management.
Okay.
Sorry, but I think it's a good point, because sometimes we're getting queries in from our postmasters and our staff from all different directions, you know, to myself, to Sean, to Stephen, via the area managers. But it's good to have that one pipeline in, and then the cash management team then can come back to us there afterwards. We're not saying please don't contact us, But if you, in the first instance, try to go through that pipeline first.
Yeah.
We're dealing with lots of requests for additional collection because of the very reason that you talked about, Peter. And Sean and his team, if it's within their gift, they'll do the service for us, but it's getting more and more difficult. But your first port of call is to the inventory team, cash management.
Yeah, I suppose, you know, and probably why people come direct is there's always a nervousness that you ring into a call centre, you don't get heard, or that goes missing, or that, you know, so I suppose it's the confidence that you're saying, go down that route. You know.
I've no issues with anybody contacting me directly, or Sean or Simon, but the first port of call would be, we would redirect them to the cash management team, the inventory team, so, but no issues with us contacting us directly.
And just to stay on target and to sort of fine tune that a wee bit as well, if cash management do say that they want a certain figure back, it's essential that you give that back because they've assessed what the holdings are. You know, gone the days where we have this just in case cash. You know, we, as a business, we shouldn't be having that on our sites. You know, so if they've asked you to send back, you know, X amount of cash, please ensure you do. If you think it's too much, then talk to the inquiry team.
And this is the golden question. There may be no answer of just, this is off the cuff question. How much is too much in a branch? So when you get to that level, is there a total upper limit that nobody should have more, that you need to make an emergency?
As long as the process and the procedures are in place, it's in the correct safe, the alarm is on, the place is locked up securely, don't be concerned about what's in the safe.
Yeah, and declared, obviously the correct cash declaration.
Yeah, okay. Very good point.
Yeah, no, been there, done that.
Your cash decks.
Make sure how much is in the system. Okay, no, that's grand. And then, Sean, moving over to yourself, from a collection side of thing, obviously there's a lot of extra money getting collected from your guys across our counters. So, from your point of view, how's that done safely? There's been a lot of people sort of mentioned about how there's only one person maybe picking the money up, and then, you know, certain people are opening the box on the customer side. Should the box be handed through the window? So, sort of, what are the do's and don'ts there when there's so much extra cash getting put through?
Well, we've had to streamline our business to make it more cost effective. We went from 2-person vehicles to 1 person because they're a quarter of the cost to run. We also went to 1-man vans because of to remove the threat of duress attacks, because historically most of our attacks happened at the back of the van whenever the case was pushed out. What was the other?
So yeah, just sort of when we come into branch, then what's the sort of do's and don'ts there for the cash management?
We did trial case across the counter, but we had to stop that when COVID came in. So for now, it's the crewman himself will open the box, close the box. What we would ask is it sometimes comes up, but when the crewman goes in, if he can sort of be dealt with as soon as possible. You know, in the past we have had some postmasters that maybe would have served the next customer, but their directions are that you're the next customer. So if possible, now we'll try and be gracious and hang about until they're ready to take us. But I was asked a question today, you know, how long? And I said, well, be reasonable. If you can afford the time, then take the time. And generally they will. But I suppose a reasonable time could be 5 minutes if he doesn't really have the time. I wouldn't expect him to just turn around and walk out.
I suppose there's a big difference as well, where he's actually dropping money off to you or collecting money, because he could be standing there with an empty case, which is less risk of standing on the shop floor, but he could be standing there also with a full case of money prepared to deliver, which is then a huge risk, I suppose, to the driver too.
Like, you know, the longer they're out there, the longer the chances of being robbed, and it's longer for them to be a target.
Yeah, so I suppose having the common sense on both sides, you know, we can use our common sense as postmasters to try and get you seen as soon as possible, and then your guys as well obviously understand that we'll all have busy post offices, so it's getting that fine balance between the two. But if somebody's worried about their CIT driver or what they're doing, or that there is a potential security risk, is there anywhere that those guys can turn to raise, like, I think I've got an issue with, you know, my driver, he's doing this every week and I feel unsafe? Is there any way that can escalate that up through?
Oh, we have a complaints procedure, and that complaint will come to me.
Okay.
And the person involved will be interviewed. And in the past, I have went out myself to a couple of post offices to speak to the postmasters. You know, just a personal touch goes a long way. Yeah, but there's a complaints procedure in place.
Okay. No,
However, if there is a security risk and there was a sort of independent view, it should be grapevine. You know, I'm going to mention it a few times tonight, probably we're going to bore you to tears. Grapevine is the port of call outside of those streams.
Yeah.
So, and they're independent, of course. And if there's any specific issue in Northern Ireland, then they'll come to me and I can talk to Sean or Stephen or whomever I need to, even yourselves.
Yeah.
And that's where we should be going. So grapevine number should be available for everybody. It should be on speed dial on your phone, especially if you're at the counter every day.
Yeah, I suppose it's just a timely reminder. And one of the reasons why we're doing this tonight is we're coming into the winter months. We're starting to heighten up the risk, the dark nights, the dark mornings. This is the most prevalent time for crime.
And that's a good segue into what I was going to say tonight, that we have launched the Darker Nights programme going forward. So that's going to be available to all of your members soon on Horizon Online on Grapevine website. Also in Northern Ireland specifically, the PS now are doing a walk and talk with the CVIT. So you may well see sometimes over Christmas period, if for instance the police aren't on a response call, you might see them walking in with our CVIT individuals in your store. That's not to be concerned, that's just a walk and talk winter Christmas scheme that we're doing. And my colleagues over in Great Britain are also liaising with the local law enforcement, and they're going to do something similar.
One of the most common probably questions I get asked, and anybody can pick this up if you want, is around people thinking that they need more collections now because, as I say, you've got a bank closed next to them and they want another collection. So anybody can answer that one of what's the route for these people that have got that query?
I think we answered it previously. We're reaching out to the cash management team, inventory team, and we're also doing lots of local revision. We're doing national route revisions as well to look at maybe providing more services to the postmasters if and when they need them, going from weekly to bi-weekly to weekly or twice weekly to 3 times or whatever, just depending on the level of cash they have. But as I said previously, Peter, it's reaching out to cash management, reaching out to the inventory team. But we can do ad hoc collections, as Sean has demonstrated he's done over the many months, or people need an emergency pickup because they're looking at obscene amounts of money, and we do see that amount of money coming back into. There's lots of money in there, and it's ever increasing.
Yeah, I suppose it's in post office interest to get that money out of and that risk away.
Yeah,
you know, so
gets off balance sheet, gets it processed, and we can get it lodged with the bank, so it gets off our balance sheet. So it's in our interest as well that we get the money back. But again, the demands on Sean's time and
it's dramatic.
It is dramatic, and the thing.
The increase in the cash collections.
Yeah, it is only going away. We're recruiting in the cash centre for the ever increasing levels of volumes of cash. So it may be replicated in the CVIT industry as well.
yeah, so because I suppose it's a good note, you know, because probably from a postmaster point of view, all we've seen is cuts maybe in that sector, as they going down to the one driver, and for those reasons, cutting costs. Other CIT companies go to one driver, so it's natural that you'll go that, and I get that. So I suppose it's encouraging, but as well, just some of those words around here, and that where a resource is needed because the demand is there, that then that's put back in, and hopefully that's.
Going back on the one point about it reduces cost going to one person operation, but we made changes to our operation to reflect changes in Northern Ireland society. All our competitors were one person, the level of risk was low when we dealt with the PSNI, etc. So we introduced one person working in most of Northern Ireland with the exception of North and West Belfast, Derry and South Armagh, and now we've extended it to all places in Northern Ireland because the level of risk has been certainly reduced and the duress has been taken away.
It didn't happen overnight.
No, not at all.
That took
not
a
at
few
all.
years for the risk assessment to come down, and we gradually introduced that. So it wasn't an overnight process, you know. But just to re-emphasise, you know, providing everybody as complying with the processes and using the technologies available, they shouldn't be concerned. But what I will say is it's also important that, for instance, if you're a high cash holder at 6-figure sums, you know, to try and keep that close-knit information to the managers only. You know, we don't need to tell everybody about that because that's where it gets into the community, and that's where then we have offenders who then find out that, you know, there's that safe is holding such a colossal amount of cash. And I think some of our members would be surprised at some of the sites that have such big sums. You know, I'm not going to name them, obviously. So keep that information as tight as possible as well.
Yeah. And if a member out there is genuinely worried just about security generally, if they contact Grapevine, they'll come through to yourself and you can visit that
if it's a situation, you know, Sean has been outstanding over the years and we have a good relationship, and I have lifted the phone many a time to Sean over the years and say, listen, Sean, is there any chance of an emergency lift? And he has visited 9 times out of 10, if it was possible. It's happening, you know. But we'll look at that individually.
Yeah. Out of testament, we've had ones in our offices that we've needed. Just too much money in the safe. Let's get rid of it, because you know, as much as yes, we can follow procedures, it's a nervousness about you know, having that there.
And if we can't do it, if it's physically impossible to do, you know, I will give a reassurance to the site, either by a visit or a phone call, to say, listen, that's fine. Make sure you know it's in there, and we'll deal with it either tomorrow or the next day. So. It's all about reassuring, you know, the site as well. You know, don't be overly concerned. Go home, have a good night's sleep. Let us be concerned about your overnight cash holdings.
Okay, thanks for that. We're coming to the end of this section. We might have questions that come in later, and we'll pick those up. Just talking about trends and security and scams and things like that. Your favourite subject, clearly. Hopefully, not everybody switches off now. We've got Mark waiting, so you know what I mean.
Well, we have this. This is the Consumer Council in partnership with the PSNI, ourselves, the Nfsp yourselves, with your badges on there, and credit unions, some of the banks. So I've been going out around post offices last 2 or 3 weeks, handing these out to some of our more vulnerable sites. And it's about scams. Now, this is a really good tool for ourselves and for our staff. And it's where we have, let's just say in a way, pay a vulnerable customer who's sending cash over to Africa. We have a responsibility to stop that cash going to Africa, because we know it's a scam. We try to educate our customers that it's probably a scam. Now, this is a tool that you can actually have at hand and show the customer, listen, look at the badges down below. It's the government, it's the police, it's the banks, it's the post office, it's the Nfsp, it's the council. They all agree that this is probably a scam. So I'll be sending these out to quite a lot of the post offices throughout Northern Ireland. Also then, the most recent scam that we have at the minute, and it's hot off the press from Scamwise NI partnership and the PSNI, is text scams. So either on your phone text or the WhatsApp, and it's basically all about somebody has hijacked your phone list. They'll pretend to be a friend or a family member, and they'll say they need a cash transfer. Now, the successful ones for the offenders are where it's a parent and they've got the name of the child, and the child's probably a student, and they've said that they can't meet their bills at the end of the week or their rent at the end of the week, and they've sent the cash over. So it's quite successful. It's important that if you get a text, WhatsApp or whatever, you don't hit any links. And if it's a name that you recognise, go through a legitimate means to contact that individual and make sure it's a genuine call. It probably is not. And please remember, if it looks too good to be true, I can assure you it's a scam.
So we're still seeing scams coming across the counter. I don't know how many text messages I got about parcels I needed to pick up and pay the couple of pounds.
And hopefully we're well aware of that one now. It's Post Office Royal Mail. They seem to be going out of trend at the minute, but they'll probably come back in again come Christmas time. And again, the text will probably say Post Office, where it should really be Royal Mail. All I can say is, if there's a link on an email or a text, do not hit the link unless you are 100% sure that you know where it's coming from. And even then, double check. You know, you need to know where it's coming from. Simple as that.
And the last top tips then for winter security.
Winter security, you know, it's all about your own security as well. You know, darker mornings, darker nights. Make sure when you're opening up in the mornings that you check around the premises. If there's more than one staff member who's opening up, please both of you look after each other. One stay, you know, far away and look after the second person who's going to open up. Check the premises. When you're walking to and from your car, if you're in a town, you know, in the car park, make sure you park your car in a well-lit area, hopefully in a car park which is close to the town itself. It's very simple stuff. I would say that the threat more is at night time. And again, so when you're walking away, try and walk away in a group. And try and park your cars together. If you're going to public transport, stay in crowded areas, you know. And then we're talking about towns and cities here, obviously, but if you're in the country, you know, if you see car headlights that come on just after, for instance, you're driving off, be very aware. Make sure you have your phone handy. It's on Bluetooth, of course. And then your first call will be to the police. It will be 999. Only if you get home and you feel that something's happened and it's a bit suspicious, then should you phone Grapevine. But in the first instance, where there's a threat, a direct threat to you or the business or to your friends or family, it should always be 999.
Okay, thanks, Simon. Thanks, guys, for that. And as I say, we may return to use after Mark's segment with more questions. Okay, so Mark Siviter's joining us in on Zoom. So again, he's going to come up on my big screen behind me. So evening, Mark. Welcome to our Northern Ireland meeting.
Good evening. How are you?
Yes, good. What about yourself?
Yeah, very good. Very good, actually, apart from the dark nights and the wet weather, but otherwise I'll cope.
Yeah, I know, and hopefully, if you heard Simon there, hopefully I didn't scare you too much about walking the dog at night or getting home, you know.
Well, I was a bit worried at first. You were talking about frauds and criminals, and then you were about to introduce me, and I thought, hang on a minute.
Well, you know, we didn't want to say anything, but you did look a bit shifty, mate. So, thanks for joining us again. I know you were on our last Zoom call here over in Northern Ireland for our members, stepping in, we did want to talk all things Pudo tonight. So, but Tom wasn't available, so we got his best understudy, I think. I suppose I'm going to leave you open to talk for a while. All things meals market. What are we looking at for Christmas? If you have any update on Pudo, just whatever you think is relevant for the members, feel free, and I'm sure I'll have some questions for you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. And thanks for inviting me again. It's always an honour to come and talk to postmasters, and to be invited back in the room for a second shot is it's always very gratifying. So hopefully I'll get a little bit right then. A couple of thoughts, really. If I could, one thing that struck me, I've been thinking about peak and some of the madness out there at the moment. The CBI saying that the economic recovery is at risk due to labour shortages, and there's not enough butchers for the abattoirs to deal with the pigs. There's not enough drivers, and just one thing I wanted to dwell on really, which was actually post officers and postmasters. It's not about the economic recovery because they never went anywhere during COVID. Fundamentally, the government's been pretty damn lucky and fortunate to have such, trusted people that have kept open and have kept the economy running from a post office perspective and delivering services. So just a reflection, really. I'd love Keir Starmer. I don't know whether you saw him trying to take his HGV test, but I'd love him to sit on a Horizon terminal and see how he cracks on with that.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, that works out. Look, peak. I'm quite concerned this year about peak. It's a little bit unpredictable, right? So I'll sort of share my thoughts around peak, and then what it means from a mail's perspective. But if you look at it, you've got ports that are clogged. Shipping containers now. If you're shipping in from the Far East, they're costing 3, 4, 5, 6 times the multiple that they were pre-COVID. So you've got a lot of inflationary pressures coming on goods coming in into the UK, plus the delays at the ports and the knock-on effects of transport issues. Amazon promoting putting money in people's pockets. I think it was £1,000 or something just to get people to show up to sort parcels in their distribution centres. So when I just think about it, I think there's some concern that I have is around supply for a start. Is there going to be enough supply? And whilst it might not be a direct impact in terms of the mails business, for sure, consumer confidence and people buying stuff and going online for high value items, it does have a knock-on effect for people then buying in the buying online, buying from marketplace sellers. So I'm not so sure about quite how peak's going to work. I think there's going to be less discounting online, particularly on sort of must-have items because there's no need to discount, but also on items where there's a limited supply. So I think this is probably the first time that I can remember that we've got such a supply issue, things coming together such as COVID, the Brexit topics, and the complexity around paperwork and all the rest of it, which I know you guys have suffered phenomenally from, both on inbound goods into Northern Ireland, but also some issues with Royal Mail. So I'd like to be sort of delivering thoughts of happiness and peak being great, but I feel a bit unsteady at the minute as to how it's all gonna map out. Um, so, I think it's hard to forecast. And in fact, you see very little forecasting going out there in the retail high street. And you see it also in the world of e-commerce. And that has an effect, for post office and for Royal Mail. Talking about the mails business, I think, critically, we need to push hard on the come early, come and post early campaign. We did it well last year. It was pretty successful, actually, I thought. And I think it's even more important now. Firstly, because if you've got a difficulty in supplying and people want to send stuff, then they need to buy the damn stuff first, right? So getting it early and getting it into post office early is going to be really important, I think, particularly with international. I can see that international is a particular pinch point for many reasons. One, of course, the new legislation for the mainland. Also, the complexities that we've seen where, quite frankly, inbound postal services don't understand what the protocol looks like from Northern Ireland and therefore can potentially have some delays. But also, there's been quite a strengthening of the processes around the world in terms of, shall we say, the protectionism of places like the US getting quite keen on understanding what's showing up on their shores. And then that's further exacerbated. We're not the only ones that are struggling to get drivers. They've got problems in Germany, they've got problems in France. So I just think there's going to be some topics. So, ship early, I think, post early is really important. And you should have all of the Christmas campaign material arriving in branch. Some of it's already there now, or arriving soon. I think that's really, really important for us. I think then, when we talk about Royal Mail's preparations, they still continue to look for over 30,000 temporary workers. They put more distribution space up. They're hiring more vehicles. Of course, they're not. They've still got challenges in the labour market. But actually, I think they're a pretty good employer, and they do quite well because a lot of people get kept on. Temporary workers do get kept on in Royal Mail when you get into the January. So I think they've prepared pretty well. The risks that I see are potentially pockets where there might be outbreaks of COVID. Of course, if you're in a delivery office and there's one outbreak of COVID, then the whole thing falls apart. And then, of course, the biggest risk is Plan B. How that's going to play out. It still seems like government's pushing ahead and keeping the economy open, but we'll have to see what happens from a Plan B perspective. So those are the sort of market issues. I think also there's been quite a fight for volume during the summer. So some carriers will have won volume on cheaper prices, and their networks might struggle actually, especially if they've got capacity issues. But I think we're well placed, and I think Royal Mail are actually very well placed, ready for peak. We've done a lot operationally to try and improve on call centre activity and to be able to support the network on failed collections and the usual thing where we tell Royal Mail we haven't got bags, and they tell me they've got container loads of them sitting around the country. So we're working with Royal Mail to make sure that we've got local supply from a bags perspective. If I may, I just want to touch on a couple of product issues. The barcodes. So you'll see that there's barcodes on Christmas stamps. This is the first set of stamps that have gone out from Royal Mail that have got these barcodes on. Firstly, they're nothing to do with, we shouldn't be scanning the barcodes on those stamps. What's happened is that Royal Mail are basically phasing in that all stamps will have barcodes, and they're not being barcoded to track anything. So there's no tracking data from that. What's actually happening is they're trying to deal with counterfeit and fraud stamps. So that's a good thing. It's a good thing for post office because the less fraudulent stamps out there, the less counterfeit stamps, the more that we can sell at post office. However, there is a sort of important barcoding piece going on, which is you've always had the barcode on the side of sheets of stamps and stamp books. And in Model Office, we're just finalising the rollout so that you'll be able to scan in those barcodes on sheets of stamps and complete the transaction in Horizon with quantity. So that should save, some process at the busiest time of year from a stamp perspective. Couple of other things. Look, you've seen the drop and go incentive now. There's been a lot of feedback from postmasters to say, what can we do to look after the loyalty of our customers, the bigger customers? So we're trialing a drop and go incentive for the next 2 months, and we've seen sign-ups go shift significantly. They were up a third as soon as we started to announce that we got this loyalty scheme. Now, look, I know it's not a load of money, right? 100 quid when you spend 10 grand, but it's not a discounting scheme. We're not able to discount universal service products, but it's a way of starting to reward customers for their loyalty somehow. And we're looking to see what that trial looks like and see how we can extend it and look at what else we could bundle up, from that perspective. And then look, Pudo. First of all, Tom sends his apologies that he's not here tonight. So as you say, I'm the understudy for Tom, so I hope I can do him justice. But in summary, I just want to reinforce that all the opportunities that we've got in Pudo are for the whole network. They're for Northern Ireland, for England, Scotland, Wales, they're for the whole network. And we're committed to ensuring that you benefit from as many Pudo opportunities as possible. So it's going to depend a little bit on what the client needs and some of the customer demands. The negotiations with DPD Ireland continue and they remain positive. So I think we'll be in a place where they're going to sign up. They're taking a bit longer than hoped for a number of reasons. Notably, there's some competing operational priorities that DPD have got, partly Brexit related for them. Having said that, 29 branches should go live with Amazon before Christmas, with more that are going to follow in the new year. We're working on other opportunities, but I can't tell you what those opportunities are because they're commercially sensitive. But they should be landing the first half of 2022, and they're commercially confidential. But just to say, this Pudo rollout, it's still phenomenal, right? We're going to have over 3,000 branches before Christmas, and I've never known Post Office do something quite so quickly once we've got the contract signed. So I'm really proud of that. But they are what we call minimum viable products. So we're going to be learning a lot. They're not going to be, straight out the bag and going to work first time. There are going to be some opportunities to improve around that. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And we need to learn and apply the lessons from the current deployment. 29 is just too few at the minute. We need more branches in Northern Ireland. And we're going to look to extend that. And we're aiming for 7,000 branches across the whole network. So that's the focus from a Pudo perspective. Cool. I can carry on talking, or do you want me to take some questions?
Well, I can. We can do either, Mark. It's very flexible, I suppose. If a postmaster is out there expecting to get the same volume as Christmas next year, is it a clear message of we're not going to get that volume? I certainly know in my post office I'm not expecting the same Christmas as we did have last year. And would that be a fair assessment under current circumstances?
Yeah, in an odd way, if we did, then we know that Boris has made one of the biggest blunders of he's made a blunder. I might not say any more to that, because if you think about it, it was when he pulled Christmas at the last minute, and all the uncertainty around that, plus the online shopping bonanza that happened, that meant that last Christmas was a sort of exceptional Christmas. Having said that, we're still seeing, some opportunity in, if you look at versus 2009, online sales have grown, and the segment that we look after predominantly is the marketplace seller area, and they've still done pretty well, but I think they're probably going to have, less orders. So I don't think it's going to be a bonanza, but I'm expecting that we're going to see the regular shape of peak. And I'm really keen to get people in the door sooner than later, because I just hate this nail-biting thing that carries on until you get to the last week of Christmas and you're waiting to see the numbers go. So hopefully we can flatten it out a little bit.
Yeah, well, actually, questions came in there tonight about. Do you think, honest answer on this one, do you think Royal Mail are being overly optimistic with their recommended last posting dates this year, especially with global delivery days? So I know you've sort of touched on it, but that's a question that's just came in tonight. So.
Yeah, it's a great question. And you know what? I think the answer is yes. We've already seen, we got last postage dates out there with the POS, and the stuff was about to land in branch, and we got the phone call to say that some of the dates have pushed back, and we're now getting some new POS posters out there where, as these things get updated, you can actually fill in, what the updated, last posting date is for international. To be honest, look, most of what walks in the door, although it does change somewhat at Christmas, but whatever we can do in our communities to promote post early, that's the best chance of it getting there. Just look at it. If you think about it, Australia, I think Sydney only just came out of lockdown, so, there's still a lot of issues in terms of the global supply chain and delivery. So I think they are optimistic. I think they're overly optimistic, actually. And I think anything we can do to get international volume into the supply chain and out for delivery is a sensible thing to do.
Yeah, well, funny, we've had another comment in this evening about the Christmas point of sale and about how good it looks, and that's actually a point then to make, that a lot of the Christmas material this year is multi-sided, so you can select a message for your branch, and obviously the encouragement from yourself tonight is you use any message to encourage people to post early.
Do you know what? The best people to understand your market are you guys and girls, right? I mean, post office, we can sit in Finsbury Dials and, get agencies and, do all lovely stuff, but fundamentally, your customers, what's right in the market. So what we're trying to do this year is to facilitate the POS. That means you can use it in the best way that you should be using it for your own, for your own market. There's still a way to go here, but we were spending millions when I showed up on some of this stuff, and a lot of it was sitting, we were sending the wrong sizes, the wrong stuff. I think we've got a lot better at it, and I can tell you now that we're not spending millions. We're well below, well below £1 million in the overall network spend. I'd rather see that money go to remuneration than to go to advertising agencies, to be frank with you.
You mentioned the phone line there for obviously postmasters to contact Royal Mail issues. Is that something you would still encourage people to use? It's still out there, I believe.
Yeah, and we I noticed on one of my WhatsApp groups, one of my postmaster WhatsApp groups, somebody was saying that when you get to, they couldn't find the number 4 when they were trying to get some contact to talk about a failed collection. So the best way of doing it was for me to try it myself. So I tried it myself. And there was a 4, but you've got to make another selection before. Look, I'm going to reinforce what's out there to support everybody in Amanda's messages the weeks progress. So if you look out for Amanda's message, there'll be more on what we're doing around Christmas to help, support members and in terms of Royal Mail collections, etc.
I know you touched a little bit there on Pudo and Amazon and stuff like that. There's been some concern out there, especially around Amazon, that they're going to use and abuse this until they get their own delivery network out there. Is there any reassurance there about the relationship with Amazon and how you potentially see that in the future?
It's this was the big issue. I had this with the board when I was talking to Amazon originally, where they were saying, "Oh, you're dealing with the devil. It's all going to come crashing down." And I can assure you that is not the relationship we've got with Amazon. Fortunately, I managed to build a relationship with the managing director for the UK. He's moved on now. There's another guy in place, and we had a top-to-top between Nick Reed and the managing director over there a couple of weeks ago. And one of the fundamental issues that we raised to them a couple of years ago was that if you're in post office, you're in it for good. And trust me, if you think you're going to be in there and then try and squeeze us on price, or if actually you're going to pull out on us or start to play any games with us, that's going to look really, really bad in front of citizens and in front of the government. So think about this partnership hard and long. It's not a revolving door. We've got a long-term contract with Amazon, and we've got fixed rates off Amazon over a matter of years now. So as much as I can, guarantee, everything that we've done, I think so far is as secure as we possibly can, make it with Amazon. I think also, I don't know whether you guys have noticed, but I thought that Amazon really stepped up during the pandemic. They did a lot more in terms of not just advertising, but I think they did a lot in support of the NHS. Getting test kits out there. So I think they're well aware of maintaining a better public image. And all of the work that I've done with them has been really professional, well thought through, well considered, and they've taken all of our challenges on board. So I think they're going to be a really strong partner for the future.
So you don't have Jeff Bezos on speed dial yet? No, you haven't reached that level?
Well, do you know what? He was. I was hoping to get on the spaceship, right? But, I've been launched a few times into space by various meetings, but without the benefit of a capsule.
But not with Amazon yet. That'll be the first. Yeah, that's your challenge: get a post office logo and a capsule, and then sent off to space.
I'll try that. I'll have a go.
Yeah, you may not be able to answer. It's just questions that have came in around MDA2 and remuneration. I know you don't directly deal with remuneration, and maybe you could just take the feedback potentially back with yourself, Mark. People are just worried that, yes, they've been told that there's the income guarantee to March 2023. People are worried that where they're getting told this is going to get reviewed, that it won't actually, because we've heard it before. We've heard stuff's going to get reviewed, never happened. Is there any indication or any conversations you've heard that you would lead to believe that this is getting taken serious within post office, and people that are losing out are going to get reviewed and looked after?
Yeah. So look, it's not I'm not responsible for the policy, but I can give you the insights that I've got, and I'm happy to share those. First of all, when you look at the majority of post offices that were potentially negative, they were negative by quite some small amounts. And first of all, I know for sure that Royal Mail will be putting their prices up in April, and we believe that that's going to start to close the gap significantly, and that the list is going to become a shorter list. So I can talk to that because I did the deal with Royal Mail, and the idea was to share value. So that's one step. The other step is, look, we've sharing the upside, and we're protecting those that are in potentially negative positions for a year and a half. But what I would offer in terms of, and I understand this, I mean, these are people's businesses, livelihoods. So what's going to happen next? Whilst I don't think there's a sort of prescriptive answer to what's going to happen next, it's in nobody's interest in post office to see post offices and postmasters and postmistresses in distress, and unable financially to cope. And on the backdrop of other issues that post offices had to put its hands up to for previous, so we say, misdemeanors. I can assure you that Nick Reed, his heart's in it, and he'll be fighting hard to make sure that we're doing the right thing. And he talks about doing the right thing at every meeting that I attend by postmasters. And government needs to do the right thing as well, right? There's some clarity around government in terms of, what does post office, look like? What's it prepared to support? What does that look like? And there's a sort of, I think there's some news that should be due quite soon about government funding as well. But never before should government have ever seen the fact that this network is immensely valuable, and it's hard to put a number on it. So I think I don't think post office will be in a position where it's going to stand back and not make the right interventions to support people. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate your honesty. You've always been very honest with us, Mark. And just touching on government, obviously, another questions came in this evening. A lot of concerns out there in post office, and I've seen it myself in a lot of the Facebook forums and all that around the minimum wage increase that was announced yesterday. And there's a lot of postmasters out there worried that that's just 6.6% increase in the national living wage. And that's going to push a lot of people over the edge. So the question in here, are Royal Mail going to put up their prices up, and will we get an appropriate increase in remuneration? So you sort of mentioned it there. Have you seen sight of anything, or what's the plan there for Royal Mail next year?
So look, I know that they're looking at putting a price review out in April. That's what I know. The details I don't know. And even if I did, I have to sign a non-disclosure agreement that I won't say a word to anybody until the day hits, because of the sensitivity around that. But what I would say is, I don't know how you guys feel, but everything I touch seems to just cost more money. I mean, just everything's going through the bloody roof, whether it's fuel, wages, food supplies. I mean, so we've got to face up to the fact we're in an inflationary economy now. I mean, inflation's starting to house prices, and Royal Mail have got 150,000 workers. They're one of the biggest employers in the UK, and they're not going to be protected from inflationary pressures, and they're going to have to recover that.
Yeah, no, and I was saying to the guys in the studio here before the evening starts, we get some people in the post office in the room, you'll get hit with every question, as you're aware, going forward. So I suppose as honorary director, you know, from post office on the call tonight, especially if you could take that back, it's definitely a major concern from a lot of postmasters across the UK. As I've seen messages of severely worried about the viability of their post office next year when that living wage comes up, you know. And I know we don't have all the answers tonight, but you know, it's good to have these conversations and start these.
I'll take that away. Any of these topics I'll take away, and I'll certainly be feeding that sentiment straight back to Nick Reed.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Mark. May come back to you and go leave you on the screen. We've got a couple of other questions. We're just going to field a couple of questions in the guy. I say you will be on the screen, so don't be starting to pick your nose or do anything like that now, Mark. So a few other questions that have just came in for the guys, and we'll pick these off just before we finish. One coming over to Simon. If somebody feels like their safe is too small for serial volume, so we talked about the equipment and using the equipment fine,
Yes, yeah.
and using the system fine, but if the equipment they feel is not fit for purpose, what do they do?
Well, you mentioned at the outset there, it's too small. You know, what is too small? If physically you cannot fit the cash into the safe, then it is too small. Give Griffin a call, I'll come out and I'll reassess that. In the short term, you know, as long as we secure the higher denomination notes all the time, and if you're sticking coin into a safe, you know, get the coin out, get the notes in, high value notes. The next coin will be obviously the £2 coins, £1 coins. You can leave the coppers out. We're happy enough that the coppers and the silvers can be set into a locked cupboard, you know. So there shouldn't be that issue where the safe's too small, you know, because you're not going to get a bigger safe just for coin only. So it's the notes, you know. But if there is an issue, give us a call and I'll go and address that.
Yeah, I suppose if they are having to leave coin out, their safety net then is they've made that call to grapevine, so they've told you there's a problem.
Absolutely.
And they've had to do that.
Absolutely. No, at the end of the day, just put it in the lock cupboard somewhere, you know. Okay. But if it's coppers and there's lots and lots of it under a bench, essentially out of sight. Yeah, because that's a target. Even if it's a big bag of coppers, you know, you'll have a customer in there, and we've had one recently, unfortunately, in County Antrim there, who was under the influence of drink and or drugs, you know, and they'll see something like that, and that's just, you know, a red rag to bull. So essentially, get it all out of sight. But low denominations, get it out of the way.
Okay, cool. And then we've got another question about PBNEs. So the joyous PBNE conversation. So
I'll probably take this one.
Yeah, you can take this one. You nearly know my question before I even ask it.
It is a passion of mine. Ideally, from a cash centre perspective, we don't like PBNEs. You know, it's if you can use plastic rubber bands to put around your notes, that's fine. It's great. If you can stop using paper clips, staple in your notes, fold your notes, it helps us greatly as well. But if an office needs to find discrepancy by a PBNE or a banded note, then we can continue to do that as well. I know there's some banded notes there as a stock item where you can put your details of Clark on it, the date it was made up, or a date stamp. So that would help us a lot. But also, Peter, in the past, I've had conversations with postmasters who presented PBNEs. A lot of the PBNEs, there was nothing on them. And when we had the conversation with the postmaster, he says, I thought you want us presented in that particular way. So it's an educational piece, but if a postmaster needs a discrepancy broken down by a PBNE or a band, we should be able to provide that.
Yeah, and as I say, there needs to be a reason for the PBNE. It needs to be stuff written on it or something for just doing it for the crack of doing it is not a reason.
Yeah, so most of the cash that's presented in Belfast Cash Centre is in bands, and it helps us a lot, so it does. But if a postmaster understands if his margins are tight, etc., if there are discrepancies coming back, you need to identify who the clerk was who made that up. So we should be able to give that discrepancy by PB&E or band or whatever.
Sean, yourself, if somebody's got a missed collection, the van doesn't turn up or whatever, what's sort of the fallback? Will they get a collection the next day, or what sort of should be the scenario there?
You become a priority for the next day. Very, very rarely will we fail 2 days running. And phone case management, because we communicate with them regular, and we're now being encouraged to, if even there's a hint that it might fail, then we have to send off an email to let them know that there's a problem on this route. It could be a potential failure. So it's all about trying to let the postmasters know ASAP. Their protocol is case management. But I have had a number of calls from postmasters as well, and I wouldn't discourage it. I know point of contact is going to be case management, but I've spoken to an awful lot of postmasters.
Yeah, so if you know that there's going to be an issue, are you contacting the sub-postmaster in advance to let them know that you're not going to get your collection today, or is that something that...
No, we go through case management.
Cash management, you'll do that through. Okay, so if postmaster's not going to sit around all day waiting on somebody that's not going to turn up...
They're meant to contact the postmasters.
Okay, going to nip over to Mark again for another question. So there's been lots of development around pick-up and drop-off services in Amazon and DPD. Is there any plans in the future to actually start selling other products, other postage options other than obviously Royal Mail Services and Parcel Force Services?
Yeah, we've been talking about this with the board for quite some time. Because we now have the option to do that, right? I mean, that's part of getting the freedoms in terms of the contract from Royal Mail. There's some sensitivities around it, of course, because what we've got to be careful of is, would we be just taking volume that we get for Royal Mail and just transferring it to another carrier? There needs to be a net gain in that. We need to either be able to make more money at the same volume if it goes to another carrier, or, we need to be able to grow the volume. So the options are there. We are doing a lot of thinking about it. I've probably been to the board at least 5 times to talk through what they might look like. I think probably where we'll get to is a case of trying to think through, when would that time be right to consider doing that? And of course, there are some complexities around that because, when you're selling somebody else's products, really what you'd like, what I'd like to see if we were doing that, or we were selling post office products, is you want a smooth journey where, you ask the customer where it's going and you check the weight, you punch it into Horizon, and then it gives the price and the service. That's quite a lot of technical change from where we are today. So never say never. It's certainly an option that we're looking at, and it might be that we do it. There might be some options to do some niche things around the edges around international. We'll have to see how that looks.
Okay, thanks for that, Mark. Okay, folks, I think that's all the questions that we've got in this evening for everybody. So I sort of just want to go around the rooms. Thanks to our virtual guests and Sue and Mark for coming on the call tonight. Appreciate the time. And, I think, Mark, the key words that struck out for me was even just the recognition from Post Office of the service that postmasters have done, especially throughout COVID. And it's good to hear directors within Post Office recognising that, and as well challenging technically government on that same notice that we haven't went anywhere. We've stuck about. You haven't had the shortages that other businesses have had, and it's a nice message to hear, and it's prevalent, especially coming into Christmas. So
it's an honour. It's an absolute honour to work with postmasters. I think people like Sue know that's where my heart is. So I'm not so worried about the brand over the top of the door, but it's for the people that work every day of the week and keep this network alive. So massive thank you from Post Office and from me particularly.
All right, thanks to our virtual guests. All right, and the guys in the studio here, first time they've obviously ever had to be put on the spot in a virtual environment. So you've done well, guys. Well done. So no, thanks to Stephen, Simon, and Sean for taking the time out this evening to come and talk through all things cash and security. So we're going to wrap it up there, guys. This link will be available if you've got staff or anything that you want to watch. To pick up this event at a later time. Please share the link about. I'll say as a Northern Ireland region, we're always looking for new people to come and join the committee to help us. I'll say it's all volunteers this is made up of, and it's about challenging post office, but it's making a difference and it's supporting each other as postmasters, and that's probably the key role of the Fed. It's to support each other, especially through difficult times. And COVID, there's been no more difficult times than COVID. So if you do want to get involved, get in touch. You can obviously text the same number that you did tonight, or go onto the Nfsp website, and you'll definitely find more information out. So we're going to leave it there. Thanks very much for your time this evening, and happy Christmas. Cheers.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.